Yeah, so, looking at the game field, the positives, from where we were in the spring is we did play a really physical game where our players were hitting hard, we were running fast. I think we knocked 2 of the running backs out of the game, so we didn't play like that against Tarleton last spring. We were too tentative, so we've made a lot of strides in that way. Thought defensively, we won the turnover battle. We won the third downs. We held them to 3 of 12 on third down, and we also held them in the red zone to, I think, only 1 touchdown out of 4 trips. So, that's really good defensively. The problem with us defensively was just the start. We played one really good half, and then we played probably a quarter where we didn't play well at all in the first quarter. That's what we've got to get rid of. We've got to be able to play a full game. Then offensively, just really disappointing. We were just so inconsistent. We had so many opportunities. Touchdown pass called back, Dom in the back of the end zone, looks like he had a toe down, and other opportunities to score that we just didn't make. That's the difference between winning and losing. And third down offensively, we were really bad, but we were in a lot of third and longs all night because of penalties. So, those are things we got to correct, and it's a long season, so we'll go back to work and see if we can get those things done this week. But, I think we showed a lot of promise. A lot of guys that played in their first game really did some really good things. Eli Johnson played really well for us at center, probably the best center play we've had in quite some time. And so we'll just keep regrouping, and we've got to play a much better team this week. I mean, San Diego State's one of the top teams in the Mountain West, tremendous defensive football team, really well coached, got great athletes. I mean, they've got all the resources in the world. They're building a brand new, $50 million stadium and things like that. So, I mean, it's tough to compete against people like that, but that's what we got, and we'll go play and see what we can do.
Questions? So, is still Jonah's job this weekend on Saturday?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Could you assess his play in game 1 there Saturday? Obviously, he was able to move the ball into the red zone, but not capitalize.
Yeah, again, it's missed opportunities. If the touchdown pass isn't called back, which was a ridiculous call, and Dom's touchdown counts in the back of the end zone, and then Robert Downs drops the deep ball, that's 3 big, huge plays right there that, would have made a huge difference for Jonah and his game. The only time I think he faltered was really in the third quarter. The first half he played really well. Third quarter he wasn't as sharp as he needed to be, but he wasn't getting a lot of help either. But, again, played his first game in front of a crowd, but he did some really good things. His running ability is really a positive for us, really helps us, and so we'll keep trying to utilize that as well.
Obviously not looking ahead, but I think I heard you mention it this morning on the radio. How much of what San Diego State does defensively is still Rocky Long, and does that give you a good look for, obviously UNM?
Yeah, it's really interesting. They it really looks like San Diego State has held on to all of Rocky Long's schemes and philosophy, which was a smart thing to do because, they were always really good on defense when he was there too. Now, I'm sure they've added their wrinkles at San Diego State, but it's very similar. So the next 2 weeks, we're really going to play a very similar style of defense, which does help us offensively to prepare.
What is that, style of defense? Because obviously San Diego State's always known for having a good defense. Are they aggressive? Are they
very, very aggressive, very pressure-oriented, a lot of man coverage. They do a great job of disguising who's coming. So they'll walk guys up, but then they don't come, they bail out, and other guys do come. They mix the front up quite a bit. They go from 3 down to 4 down defensive linemen, so you really don't know what you're going to get all the time. So it's a lot of disguise and confusion and things like that they cause for the offense. And they just play really fast football. They always have great athletes that run to the ball. And then the back end, they can play man coverage. And when you can play man coverage, you can put extra people in the box to stop the run. And that's why you don't see people very seldom ever have success running the ball against them, because there's usually 7, 8 people in the box.
To follow up on that, just with Jonah, what do you tell him? What is he focusing on this week when there are some confusing looks up at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, there's some really confusing looks. So I think, quarterback-wise, you've really got to get into reading progressions instead of coverage, because they're going to do such a great job of disguising everything. You really have to go 1, 2, 3 on your looks, this receiver, that receiver to the back, or whatever it is, the read, and not worry so much about what the coverage is.
We talked a lot about Coach Ho missing that season last year, obviously playing catch-up there up to week 1. On the flip side, maybe now having a game on this season under your belt and moving that forward to this week, and San Diego State doesn't. Are there any advantages, disadvantages to that?
Well, I mean, yeah, you'd like to think you're going to improve from game 1 to game 2. You know, we did in the spring from playing Tarleton to Dixie. We had major improvement. So that's what we need to do. If we're going to have any chance at all, we've got to improve a lot from that game to this game.
I wanted to ask, just you mentioned the unfortunate plays that you missed out on in the red zone that took points off the board. Did you feel like you executed well down there? Just maybe some bad luck, because like you said, like your defense held them to field goals. I think you guys were 1 for whatever down there. So did you execute and then just not finish, or like?
Yeah, I mean, we had good scheme, good plays called. We had good thoughts, but we just didn't execute the plays. Jason, either we missed the throw. You know, Weston missed Dom on a crossing route on a little play action. He missed Downs on a slant and go where they called pass interference, but we needed the touchdown, you know, but threw it late, you know, and so, yeah, those are all things that you're not executing. You're just not quite in sync. But the good news is we're throwing it the right places most of the time. We didn't throw interceptions, but, you know, we got to make those plays. You got to make the catch or you got to make the throw. And we missed way too many easy throws Saturday.
We've talked about their defense. You know, it seems like their strength is also running the football. I was wondering what you saw on Saturday from your defense to be able to match up with their, you know, running game this week.
Yeah, that's probably where San Diego State is different from when Rocky was there. When Rocky Long was head coach, they were more 2-back and power running game. Now they're more 1-back. Very similar to what we do in terms of running the ball. So it's, you know, a lot of zone reads and things like that. So that part is different. But they've always had great running backs. And so, you know, we've got to find a way to get extra people in the box too to help stop the run. But we can't, you know, expose our secondary too much either. So it's a real balance of same thing. You got to be able to disguise. You got to be able to play a little man coverage every once in a while and mix things up.
Defensive line looks like one of their strengths with Thomas up front's a bit of a disruptor there. Any changes to, you know, what you're preaching on the offensive line? Obviously, UTEP's defensive line a big strength of their team as well.
Yeah, not really. I mean, there's not a weakness in their defense, you know. So I mean, their defense line is really good, but their secondary is phenomenal. So I mean, it's really a solid defense all around.
Who do you think is going to play? You know, Bell has the first half from the targeting penalty, so I don't know. Is it going to be Caleb?
Caleb Mills right now, yeah.
And who are you getting ready to face from their quarterback position?
Well, again, you know, you just go on what you read, social media. You just try to get clues on all that stuff, but you really don't know until you get out there. So, again, I think for us, it's a lot more about just us than it is them, you know, on both sides of the ball. It's just like you were talking about the offense executing the red zone. That had nothing to do with the UTEP. That was just us. So that's what we got to do this week. We got to make sure that we execute our stuff. Doesn't matter what they do, and same thing on that side.
Coach, what are some of the challenges heading on the road for the first time?
You know, it's interesting, Adam, because we had I think it's 45 guys that played their first game Saturday, and everything was new for those guys. You know, the Friday before a game, how do you act? Saturday leading up to the game, what's the procedures? So now you're going on the road, and none of them have been on a road trip before. So it's always something new they're going to learn for the first couple of weeks and then get settled in. So that's the biggest thing, is just trying to educate guys like Jonah, you know, Dalton Bowles, all these guys that have never traveled before that are playing a lot of football for us of how that stuff goes, so they can relax and concentrate on the game instead of trying to feel their way through a trip and all that type of stuff. So, you know, there's challenges with all that, but, you know, I think our guys are excited about playing. They know that, you know, we should have played better Saturday, but, again, I have a hard time faulting these kids for anything. After everything they've been through, they're trying their best, and they're working as hard as they possibly can. They're giving us everything they got, and that's all you can ask.
Got to be an exciting factor too. I know it's a late kickoff, but CBS Sports is, you know, an opportunity for New Mexico State to be in kind of the limelight spotlight there.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get, you know, some exposure like that, it's always exciting for the players, for their families, especially if families are far away. It's an opportunity for them to get to see them play. So, you know, again, that's a great way to start a season.
Was it Coach Pence that kind of got you into California? It seems like you have several guys over the last few years from California, and in this game in particular from San Diego.
Yeah, that was part of the idea when we hired Ronnie, that we were going to put another recruiter in California. I think California for us is, and much like everywhere recruiting for us is, it's got to be a fit. You know, it's hard to get a kid from inner city LA to come to Las Cruces, New Mexico. That's just not a fit, right? But there are parts of California that kids are really good fits here. There's parts of Texas that kids are really good fits here. There's parts that they're not. And so it's finding that niche and finding that area to be able to get the players that you need.
Biggest key to pulling off a win on the road, especially with an underdog like you guys.
Yeah, the turnover margin is going to be huge, and then we have to score points. I mean, we cannot leave our defense out there, on the field. Even though we only had one turnover on offense, we didn't do enough things to help our defense in terms of scoring points and keeping them motivated and keeping us in the game. So, our defense, I think they're going to play as hard as they can possibly play, but offensively, we got to give them something to play for. So we got to go score points.
From an injury, COVID standpoint, is there anything for this game?
Injury-wise, we really came out of the game in pretty good shape. I don't think we have anything really serious. We're still waiting on a couple of issues, but just mainly bumps and bruises. COVID is it's like the most fluid issue ever. So we tested yesterday and have not gotten any of the results back. So, I mean, I don't know how that happened. We need those results the same day we test, and we're not getting them. So that's difficult on the coaching staff because we don't know. So as we sit here today, we tested yesterday and we tested this morning, but I haven't got yesterday's test results back yet. So I don't even know who can practice today, and it's 12 o'clock. So it's making it hard.
Do you have anything else from the in-person media?
What's been your main message to the team coming off that first home loss and going on the road?
Just, that they've done everything the right way. They're working really hard. They're practicing really hard. They've got a great attitude about everything they've done. They just need to keep believing in each other and themselves, and keep getting better. And I think they'll do that.
Ken and the crew on Zoom, feel free to ask if you have any questions for Coach.
Ken's asleep on his couch.
I think you answered what I wanted to ask.
Ken, you're on the couch watching Andy Griffith, aren't you? Is that it?
Anything else from the media on Zoom? Going once?
Yeah, this is Kirk Kenny from the San Diego Union Tribune. I had a question or two, if you don't mind. Coach, I want to ask first off, what was the biggest concerns or complications by going through all the COVID last year, especially being an independent?
Well, the COVID part of it, because we weren't playing, we didn't play the season. Kurt, it wasn't as big a factor for us because we weren't even allowed to practice here during the fall. So not only do we not play games, we weren't allowed to practice either. So the COVID part of things, the only thing it impacted us on was the strength and conditioning program during the fall. Last spring when we started practicing, it became more of an issue because we chose to play the 2 games in the spring so that we would get more practices. Because if we had not done that, we'd only gotten 15 practices, and that wouldn't be near enough to help us catch up. So we played the 2 games. We got about 30-something practices in with those games, and that helped us. So the COVID issues were just, you never know who's going to be positive, negative, contact tracing, all that. The contact tracing, I think, has always been the most cumbersome thing to overcome.
Mm-hmm. And then you were able to play the 2 games in the spring, so how much did that help you kind of catch up, or is the development still way behind because you missed all the last fall?
Yeah, I mean, we're still behind, I'll be honest with you, but had we not played those games, we would be light years behind. I mean, there's no way we would have a chance to catch up. I mean, we're really struggling to catch up now, but I'm glad we did what we did. It was the smartest thing to do. Like I said, even more important than the games were the amount of practices that we got, and that really, I think, helped us a lot. And where I would tell you that comes into play is like when we played Tarleton last spring. I mean, we looked like we hadn't been on a football field for 400 days. I mean, we couldn't tackle, we didn't have any feel for the game. It just looked like it was our first time on a football field. And then by the time we got to the second game, it was much improved. And then this summer, we just did as much live work as we possibly could, and that's helped us get to where at least we can compete a little bit. Had we not done that, I don't think there'd been any chance.
Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I want to ask is, with talk of realignment and recent days and weeks. How do you see you guys maybe fitting in that picture as dominoes fall, and where would you guys like to end up? In a conference, in any particular conference you might have your eye on going forward?
Well, I mean, it's probably a better question for our athletic director, but I mean, we'd certainly like to be in a conference. We'd like to have all our sports in the same conference, I would think. If you're just asking me, would be even better. It seems like the most two viable sources always have been the Mountain West and Conference USA for us. One of those two is if you're going to be FBS football, those are two really good conferences that you'd like to be in. I think it would help our entire athletic department if we could ever get that done. Football's got to be a major part of that. The deal is, those conferences, they want teams and programs that are committed to playing football. And so, we've got to show that we're committed to playing football and that we're going to build resources, we're going to build facilities, we're going to help the coaches recruit because of the facilities you build, all those type of things. When you look what San Diego State's doing with their facilities right now, we're ages behind that. I mean, we don't even have air conditioning in our locker room right now. And Saturday at UTEP, it's over 100 degrees in our locker room. So we got a long way to go to catch up to those people, but that's where we'd like to be one day.
What would it mean to your program to be aligned with the conference again? Can you say specifically what areas that really helps?
Well, obviously, it aligns you with bowl games. It helps your scheduling. That's a big part. It's really hard to schedule as an independent. I think our Mario and our guys have done about as good a job as you could possibly do scheduling as an independent. But scheduling and being affiliated with bowls, and then the TV contracts that are tied into conferences, those are all big wins. Recruiting, when you have a base that you can recruit to, and the kids know your conference and the teams you're going to be playing all the time, it makes it much easier to recruit.
Thank you very much, Coach.
You bet.
Anything else for Coach before we bring on Eli? Alrighty, Coach. Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks guys.
Thanks, Coach.